So we just saw the thing on Mitchelle Blair. Yeah, this lady was pretty sick. I mean, that's all I can say. She was really sick. And what she did to her kids, I think, honestly, it's terrible that we even have to say this, but the world could never know really what did or did not happen between the children. The woman says what she says with a lot of conviction, but at the end of the day, there is a noted history of abuse that I don't think kids could have carried out on kids. You know, extension cords, that's old school. You know, that's an adult doing that to a child.
They said that, but they also said that she was loving and caring. So it was like she was abusing him and then like making it up to him by showing him that like, oh, I'm doing this because I care kind of thing. So that she was even like messing with them psychologically, I think, too. Okay.
That's that Stockholm. I mean, I think that's pretty common, unfortunately, in these kind of scenarios. Yeah, they ended up with that Stockholm, which is a very interesting course of events. I mean, as far as how she's talking about, you know, what happened, her confession, as it were. I mean, you was zoned in because the things that you heard were just like unfathomable. Like, wow, like you would not expect in any way, shape, or form a child to be capable of these things. But I'm going to be 100% honest when I say that nowadays you really can't put nothing past anybody. You really can't put nothing past anybody because of, I want to say it's what people are exposed to from an early age. Because, yeah, like, you really can't put nothing past nobody, seriously. Like, they could very well have been doing exactly what she said was happening, and I wouldn't be able to say, oh, yeah, I can't believe that. And that's sad. But we in a world that's like over-sexualized, you know, children getting exposed to this kind of stuff very early. I mean, unfortunately, people are okay with letting, you know, pastors and priests and et cetera, do all kinds of things, and uncles and aunts and cousins, et cetera, do all kinds of things to their children. It's like socially acceptable. And because of that, it keeps happening, and it's a cycle that's going on and on and on and on right now. Like this documentary that we just saw did, like, let's talk about exactly what's happening with these children. Like, and it's nothing sweet. And, you know, we're going to have to say, as the parental figures, we have to stay on top of the children in the community, not just your kids. I mean, I know it sounds like asinine to say, hey, you gotta watch my kids. You gotta watch your kids too. Like some people say, nah, you gotta only focus on your family. But end of the day, it's a community. You won't have to be on some it takes a village type stuff. Like really watch these other kids. Like at least talk to the parents. Like you don't hear nothing from the parents. The parents seem like they got some issues, and you know they got some issues. I mean, see what you can do. I mean, socially, you know, to help that child. Because you don't know what's going on with these kids nowadays. You don't know what they're getting exposed to, you know, what kind of parenting they have. I mean, well, you do know. Should I say you do know what kind of parenting they have. And when you know what kind of parenting they have, I mean, you should try to do your best to help them out.
Everything you said was very valid because not that it takes a community to look after kids, because the parents should always, you know, that should be their primary concern, looking after your kids, because nobody else is going to take care of your kid the way that you will and your spouse. You should also, look out for somebody else. If you know that, you know some information that's like true or factual about this person, you know, don't keep it quiet if it's somebody around someone else's children. Like, that would be something I would definitely, like, want to know, you know? These kids, like, the things that she was saying was happening to, she was doing these things to the brother and then making him do these things to the other brother. Like, this is going to be a never-ending cycle at this point, I think, because that little kid was tortured if those things were true. They say he was 6 at the time. Like, he don't know that this is, like, wrong until and starts, like, beating the other kid and realizing, like, because something's been going on and trying to get answers. So he didn't, like, have words to this stuff that was happening. So kind of the way she was explaining it, like he was saying, it was, like, bouncing a ball, like, stuff like that. So it makes it sound like, you know, it's factual, because what does a kid know to explain that as?
Tell me what happened to Stephen. I came home one day. My daughter, my oldest, met me at the door, and she's like, "Mom, come see what he's doing with his dials." And I'm like, "What is he doing?" He was making one dial, his little wrestle man, hump on top of the other. No, I'm like, "Why was you doing that?" I said, "Anybody ever do this to you?" He said, "No." I said, "Then why are you doing that?" And he said, "Yes, Stephen did." And I was like, so this is the first I'm hearing about that, period. This was 9 months before Stoni. Okay, Stoni wasn't downstairs, and she was always in the background. I wish to God I had questioned everybody together, but I didn't.
Would you say this was around August 30th, 2012?
No, this was before August 30th. August 30th is when he died.
Okay.
This was maybe a week and a half.
Before he died?
Yes.
Okay. So that, telling you that set off some action?
Yes, I went upstairs because Stephen was upstairs in his room. And I went upstairs and I said, "Stephen, you said you was humping on him." And then Stephen stood up and he looked at me, and right then I could tell something was wrong in his face, because he was just like this. Any normal kid, I know my kid would have been like, "What?" That's not what he did. He stood up and looked at me like he had lost his mind. Okay? And it just, hearing that from him had me up in my head, period. But I asked him, I said, "Stephen, tell me the truth. Was you humping on?" He said, "Yes, but that was all." And I said, "Did you hump on him with your underwear off?" He said, "No." He yelled out, "Yes, he did." And I just remember going in the hallway, walking back and forth, like, and I walked back up and I was like, "You your brother? You get what I'm saying? You your brother." So I'm looking at them two. I'm looking at them like, what? I can't understand. So I start punching Stephen. You know, I'm like, "What the is you doing to him?" I just started asking him questions. At this point, it's just spilling out. He's just spilling out. "And Mom, and he's doing like this, and he do this to me almost every night." He tell me how he was, the reason I put bags over Stephen's head is because I thought he in the bed. My son was never a bed wetter. Didn't know it was Stephen waking up every morning pissing on like he was a damn piece of shit. Okay? They had bunk beds. Stephen would get out the bed in the middle of the night. You would rape him in his own bed. You would pee on him instead of going to the bathroom. I'm waking up every morning thinking he was a bed wetter. So we just wash him up and go, you a bed wetter.
Let's talk about what you did to Stephen.
The reason I put bags over Stephen's head is because my son told me that the plastic on his bed, because I thought he was a bed wetter, he said, "Sometimes, Mom, I couldn't breathe. Stephen was laying on me and he had my face down in the plastic on the bed. I couldn't breathe and he was humping on my butt like a basketball." That's when I got a garbage bag and started putting it over Stephen's head. And I started asking him, "Bitch, you know what I'm saying? You see what this feel like? You can't breathe? You stop at that's my son. You could not breathe on top of getting raped. You was 6 years old at the time. You get what I'm saying?" So I put the bags over his head. He lost consciousness. I did that a couple times. He tell me that would be face down. He had stuff around his neck. So I grabbed Stephen, I grabbed a belt, and I put a belt around his neck, and I lifted him up like, "Do you like how this feels, being choked with a belt?" So I dropped him. I held him up until he lost consciousness as well.
You were intending to...
No, I did not intend to kill Stephen.
No, I'm not... Listen to my question. You were intending to inflict serious physical harm, but not kill him.
Definitely.
Okay. Did you also punch him?
Yes, I did. Multiple
also kick
times.
him?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You talked about choking him. Did you also burn him?
Yes, I did.
Okay, how did you do that?
Hot water, scalding hot water. In our bathroom, the hot water gets extremely hot. So, his private area, I stood him in the bathtub naked. You my son with your, you know? So yes, I threw hot water in his genital area multiple times. Multiple times. Every time Stephen peed in my son's eyes. He put his in his ears, his nose. He peed. Even told me one time, "Mom," and in my eyes he said it was gooey, but it wasn't pee. And right then, it was like, I didn't even know a 9-year-old could ejaculate. You get what I'm saying? So not only did you do that, you did it in my son's eyes. So my son had to go through all this shit. So yes, I threw hot water on him repeatedly.
Did it make him burn?
Yes, it did. His skin came off.
Did you
His
also
skin
make
came
him
off.
drink Windex?
Yes, I did, because told me in the middle of the night he had took him in the basement and he made him drink the blue stuff from under the sink. And I'm like, what blue stuff? So I walked downstairs. He showed me what I said. You made drink Windex. And then I went back to like years before, and I'm like, is this what was wrong with him? I thought he had the stomach flu, where you vomit and have diarrhea. You get at the same time. At that time, this is what was going around. A lot of people had it, so this is what I thought had. He didn't. Stephen made him drink Windex. So yes, I made that boy drink Windex.
Maybe the Windex thing, maybe that didn't happen, or, maybe some things didn't happen, but I also think some things did happen, because for a mother to just snap on their kids and torturing them, like, I don't know, maybe because I'm just not that type of person that I can't really relate to this kind of abuse and violence, but something must have had happened for her to snap like this. But they also said that she was very aggressive, like just naturally she was aggressive, and then what she was doing in the jail before, like, was sounding like some of the things that the kids were saying were happening to them. So maybe it was really her doing it all and she was getting a guilty conscience. I don't know. It can go both ways. But when she was accounting for all these facts that she said were going down, or situations that were going down, she had no remorse at all when she was saying it. And it was, I'm not going to say cutthroat, but she was just like trying to get to the point here. Like, yes, I did it, if that's what you're trying to say. Like, but don't try to say that nothing happened and I just did it just because.
Yeah, just watch what you let your children get exposed to, and without you explaining to them, without you level setting with them what's real, what's not real, what's proper, what's not proper behavior in society, because otherwise your kid could really end up being on some crazy time. I'm not going to say, no way, no how, no way, no how, nothing happened. This lady just crazy. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say it's a 50-50, literally.
Mm-hmm. I just can't believe she kept them wrapped up in a freezer in the middle of your living room. Like, you had to literally sit with that, you and your children, and had to act like this freezer was just filled with fruits and vegetables, meats, juices. No.
She figured, I'll put them in the freezer in my house, because that way she know where the body's at, you know what I mean? And she figured she got the most custodian like kind of vibe going over these bodies. Like she knows where those bodies are buried, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, she's got control.
Really, she was losing control. Couldn't even pay her rent. She was coming to get evicted. And that's the only reason why the authorities discovered the bodies, because they were already throwing her stuff out. So if somebody would have just not even looked in that freezer, those bodies would still be.
Bodies would still be in there. She could pay her bills. Those bodies would still be there.
Thanks for tuning in today to Couple of Reacts, covering the Mitchelle Blair case. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss when we post once a week. Leave a like if you want to see more true crime. And leave a comment if you have a story that interests you that you would like us to react to.